Call a meeting to order. You have a copy of the minutes. Any additions or corrections? If not, I'll entertain a motion to be approved. Motion. Kelly and Rick, all in favor? You in favor of the minutes, sir, Mr. Livingston? It was unanimous. Transfers, any questions on the transfers? If not, then entertain a motion to approve those. Ricky?
Second.
Charlie? All in favor? Okay, that's approved. You got a copy of the bills. Any question on those two hand checks? Need a motion to approve the bills. Alvin? Okay.
I'm sorry. Yesterday, late, before I left, I had to add a Visa. It's not on there.
What was it?
$83 and some change
Visa, $83
for the clerk's office.
and some change. Okay, that'll work. Okay. Need a motion to approve those bills? Alvin and Chad. All in favor? Okay. Did you vote for that bill?
What?
Did you vote for that?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't see.
I winked hard.
One, okay. The minutes need to show that the sheriff turned in fees of $54,182.28. One thing that's not on the agenda, but just needs to be reported in the minutes, the jailer is required to turn in his budget by May 1st, and that needs to be noted in the minutes. And that doesn't mean that that's approved, that just, he turns it in then we approve it when we approve the total budget. But his budget has been turned into the court, and you have a copy of it. And that needs to be noted in the minutes. You have a proclamation for the American Red Cross. Clay, I can't talk, so you're going to have to read this.
What's that?
American Red Cross proclamation. We have a proclamation I'm going to ask Clay to read.
American Red Cross Month 2015 proclamation. March is American Red Cross Month, a special time to recognize and thank our everyday heroes, those who reach out to help their neighbors when they are in need. American Red Cross heroes are on the front lines every day. They volunteer their time, take life-saving courses, or provide financial donations to those in need. We like to remember our heroes here in Georgetown, Scott County, Kentucky, who give to help people in need. They work tirelessly to help in time of disaster, provide resources, or the comfort of a helping hand. They provide round-the-clock support to members of the military, veterans, and their families, and teach life-saving classes in CPR, aquatic safety, and first aid. Across the country and around the world, American Red Cross responded to hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, and wildfires. The tragedy at the Boston Marathon and Typhoon Haiyan in the Philippines. When an injured service member ended up in a hospital far from home, the American Red Cross offered comfort. When a lifeguard jumped in to save a drowning child or someone stepped up to help a heart attack victim, the American Red Cross was there. We dedicate the month of March to all those who support the American Red Cross mission to prevent and alleviate human suffering in the face of emergencies. Our community depends on the American Red Cross, which relies on donations of time and money to fulfill its humanitarian mission. Now therefore, I, George Lusby, Judge Executive, Scott County, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Constitution and laws of Scott County, Kentucky, do hereby proclaim March 2015 as American Red Cross Month. I encourage all Americans to support this organization and its noble humanitarian mission.
Need a motion to approve that.
Motion.
You said that well? Second. Thank you. All in favor? Okay, it is unanimous. I think we need to note in the minutes too that the Honorable Clay McKnight is serving as our county attorney today. Brought out of retirement.
Ben's got a flu.
Glenn is not feeling well today, so that needs to be noted in the minutes also. At the workshop, talked about putting the siding on the barn out there at the, what was the, Medford property. And it's less than what is required to bid, less than $20,000. I think it's 17, 18, the one estimate we got. JR, you remember what that estimate was?
It was like 17.8.
Yeah. Now, we're trying to get another estimate, but it does not have to be bid, but, and it really doesn't need approval from the court because it's in the budget, but this kind of expense, I'd like approval, and if you agree, then I'll entertain a motion to proceed with it. Alvin? Bill? Any questions? All in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. Also, skipped over one item on the agenda. The sheriff turns in a annual budget, and since they are a fee pooling office, all the fees that he takes in comes back to the court. All the fees that, all of his expenses come out of that. So his budget is $1,245,000. Receipts and then expenses, same amount, $1,245,000. And need approval of this so we can send it to the state. Bill? David? All in favor? Okay, that is unanimous. Kathy has requested that one of her employees, they're required to take a certain amount of training, and this is out of state. Jetty Schofner be going out of state for this training. Need approval for that. The training is not in Kentucky anywhere. Rick, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, it is unanimous. Let's see here. EMS, new hire, David?
Good morning. I had offered this gentleman a full-time position, and he declined that, but he's willing to come on part-time with us. It's Joseph Ellis, $15.50 an hour, no benefits.
Is part-time?
Part-time paramedic.
Okay. Any questions for,
What did you say about the benefits?
No benefits.
No benefits.
the motion, if you say it? Anybody? Bill? All in favor? Okay, it is unanimous. Thank you, David. John, got on here, corner new hire.
I'd like to ask the court to be able to hire a gentleman, Daryl Taylor, part-time, no benefits. He would replace Charles O'Neill. And like I said, we're going to split about a $14,000 salary between him and Nathan Morris. Nathan's currently part-time with me.
There's no additional cost
No
on
additional.
this, it's just different person.
And we're splitting one person's salary and giving Mr. Taylor half of it. And no additional costs to the
What-
court.
Nate had been getting the entire salary.
The
One
entire-
time there
the
were
entire
two
salary.
paid part-time people, and then it went to one, now it's going back to two.
Yes, sir, correct. It's always been two for 10 years. It was two, and then we backed it up to one. Now we're going back to two.
But the same amount of money.
Yes, sir, no additional.
Rick? Just a second. Any questions? All in favor? Okay.
Thank you.
Be sure they get with Jane to fill
Yes,
out
sir.
the paperwork.
Yes, sir, thank you. Can he be sworn in tomorrow, or Monday, June?
Anytime but this afternoon.
Okay, thank you.
Bluegrass Ed, we went over that contract at the workshop. I have a copy of it if you have any questions. We talked about it at length. If not, if you got any additional questions, if not, I need a motion to approve the contract. Rick?
I had a question. Did you ever get a bid back from the other group?
No, but the numbers they were talking about were in excess of 100,000.
Understand.
Yeah, and they never have gotten back with us.
Okay.
Is there a second to that motion?
I got it.
Oh, okay, all in favor? Okay, moving right along. The treasurer, new hire, Jane and I interviewed 6 people. I was concerned that we wouldn't get any qualified people. We could have hired any of the 6 of them, I think. Jane, would you agree? We had 6 excellent people that we interviewed. We're gonna wait till Monday to make a recommendation, or to decide on who it would be for sure, and it'll be brought up at the fiscal court meeting on Thursday, when we meet on that Thursday. But 6 really, really good applicants. It was almost impossible to separate the ones that we have, so that'll be coming up. And Bill and Rick, are we on the constable criteria?
I've got a list of the criteria here that Rick and I came up with. Pass it down, please. Rick and I took the suggestions we had from Franklin County and some of the other stuff suggestions that we gathered around. And we met and we came up with 10 items we felt are important to any ordinance that we would write. This is not an attempt to punish any constables, but more so an attempt to protect the fiscal court and the citizens of Scott County. One of the things we came up with was marking of constable cars that are in use if they're going to have blue lights on them. We suggested item number 1, they must provide their own vehicle and is clearly marked and identified as constable on both sides of the rear of the vehicle. Letters must be a minimum of 3 inches in height and contrasting colors to the vehicle, and reflective are strongly encouraged. Any other markings must be approved by the fiscal court.
Bill, that's great. We've got some that are, or would they be grandfathered in?
I think. that would be
Or would they have to take them off?
No, I think.
Markings other than what's on here?
I think the ones that we already have, we would leave alone.
Okay,
Any new ones, we would require these.
okay. Go ahead, I didn't mean to interrupt.
But
That's okay.
can I ask real quick?
Yeah.
A question on that? Would we go on ahead and still have to have a picture of the car to approve what they currently have?
Yes,
Anyway, okay.
yes. Item number 2, they must remain in their elected district when on patrol. If they're on patrolling, the only exceptions would be during times of natural or man-made disaster at the request of the county sheriff or the county EMA director. And the purpose of that was just to give them any additional support they may need. It's just an extra asset that's out there should these folks have blue lights. The only other exception would be when servicing court-generated documents, arrest warrants, and criminal summons, things like that. The constable must provide proof of having at least 4 years of street experience in law enforcement with a recognized law enforcement agency or active duty military service branch in the previous 10 years. The reason we changed that is that there are a lot of folks coming off active duty who will serve in a military police fashion, and their training far exceeds anything they would get down in Richmond. The normal law enforcement officers nowadays in Scott County would make a 40 to 60 hour week. These folks are 70 to 80 hours a week when they're on duty. We said the constable must be in proper attire designated by the Kentucky Constable Association when on patrol or in official capacity. Uniforms are at the constable's own expense. The constable must provide a monthly log to both the county judge and the county sheriff by the 15th of each month of any actions prior month of the hours, mileage, and duties performed as a law enforcement officer. The constable shall not collect civil debts, non-sufficient fund checks in the official capacity, specifically in uniform, in an official vehicle, or any using official correspondence or communications. Collecting non-sufficient funds or bounce checks is not a thing we want a constable to be doing in uniform. They must carry $1 million vehicle and professional liability insurance. Scott County Fiscal Court shall be named as an additional insured on such policy, and the Scott County Fiscal Court shall be named as a certificate holder. This makes it, if the constable really goes off the rails, we're covered under their policy as well. Constables will be subject to a 12-panel drug screen and a criminal background check at the will of Scott County Fiscal Court and the expense of the constable. The constable shall successfully pass the drug screen and have no crimes of moral turpitude on his criminal record. The constable shall maintain a valid Kentucky motor vehicle operator's license in good standing, not suspended, not revoked, no DUIs in the previous, and I left that blank. We can determine how many years we'd like that. On or before January 1st of each year, the constable shall appear before the fiscal court to present any required proof of additional training, driver's license requirements, insurance documentation, and request authorization for the new year. Insurance documentation must be in effect on January 1st through December 31st of the year in which the request for authorization is being made. A violation of any of these criteria shall result in a revocation of the privilege to use said equipment.
That's good, Bill. I think y'all have done a good job. I think we need Glenn to make sure that everything is legal, and it appears to me that it is. But any questions for Bill or Rick?
I had a question specifically on some of the consequences, because the writing laws, we have to have consequences if there's a violation. And I assume that now at the end you said a violation of these criteria should revoke in that privilege. So is that the privilege to just use any of the stuff completely? Does it have a time span with that? Is it, you know what I'm saying? So you can't use this stuff for 3 months, 6 months, a year?
Probably, I've got the feeling if we revoke it, it would be for the year.
Okay.
And then they would come back on January and reapply and say, look, I've cleaned these things up, I've got my insurance taken care of, or my driver's license is fixed, or I've got my car, properly decaled, things like that. One of the things that we're after here is we want constables to be able to do their job, okay? But on the backside of that, we hire and we train our law enforcement officers. We don't elect them. And I understand that a constable goes through 40 hours of training, but that 40 hours of training can in no way compare or prepare them for the stuff that they would face that 6 months down at Richmond at the Department of Criminal Justice would prepare them for. So if you look at the constable's website, okay, and it has a big list of all the constables that have been killed in the line of duty. They don't need blue lights, they need body armor. Because they have more people killed by gunfire than they do by any other reason. And so I think that for Scott County's sake, we're better off having it this way than we are to say absolutely not, you can't have them. Let's face it, if we have a Scott County Sheriff's deputy that retires and he has 25 years experience, and then 2 years later decides to run for a constable, okay, that experience is valued to Scott County, okay? But for someone to come in with no experience, that experience is not such high value to us. Did I answer your question, Chad?
Chad, on the blue light rejection or revocation, the law simply says that you can withdraw it at any time. So with or without reason, I think you could withdraw it. And the choice at that time would be whether you would do it for a month or permanently or a year. I think that'd be up to fiscal court. But you can withdraw the privilege. And all of these are conditioned upon being in compliance for the blue light. Otherwise, they can't have a blue light. But they'd still be a constable.
Yeah, we can't prevent them from being a constable.
Right.
We're looking to protect ourselves from
Well, I think,
a nutcase who wins an election.
Unless they want to put blue lights on their vehicle, then none of this criteria would apply to them because they're a constitutional elected officer.
That's
We wouldn't have
correct.
any- Okay.
Yeah, I think, Judge, if I can, we were, the original concern was liability to the court.
Yes.
That's I think, first and foremost concern. And Glenn got us some information, I'm sure we've all seen it, for a fiscal court to be liable for the wrongful conduct. This is an Attorney General's opinion. For a fiscal court to be liable for the wrongful conduct of a constable, the wrongdoing by the constable must be directly attributable to the use of the blue lights or siren, and the fiscal court must have acted negligently negligently in approving the use of blue lights under subsection 5, and it goes on. So that's what I see, that's what our kind of job was, is we try to put this together. It pertains, Charlie, as you said, only to the blue lights and sirens. They are elected officials. That is a line that I don't want to cross, and I think everyone here agrees that and with that. So, but when it comes to the blue lights and sirens and liability, that's what we were trying to concern ourselves with. And in my view, some of this, even we were considering the safety of the individual constable, actually, as we talk through this, especially when it pertains to training. Because I've had conversations with folks in my district about this issue, and I got to hear some war stories about folks in the past that I don't even recognize the name, which is immaterial, but the public is a little concerned about those guys. In fact, some of them said, I don't know, they had that authority. I said, well, they do. They do have that authority. So we're wanting to protect the citizens as well. That's how we went about this.
One of the things, this is minor, but taking the blue lights away for any of these things, if it were for insurance, we took them away and they came back a month later and said, we've got it and presented, then that would be reason to, but if somebody had a DUI, you might, it would be a different set of circumstances. So I think not putting a time limit would make a difference. And
They're gonna have a difficult time finding insurance.
very difficult, yeah.
CAECO won't provide it. State Farm, Farm Bureau, those type of agencies won't provide it. So,
Could we put in there, or Bill, put in there that if the blue light permit is taken away by the fiscal court, that it would be up on the discretion of the fiscal court, according to what level or degree of violation that they did or what they did to lose them, and then.
Well, the Kentucky statute gives us that flexibility anyway, to either grant or not,
Okay.
okay, to give and take.
Right.
And what we're doing right here is we're just trying to lay out criteria that they have to meet for us to allow them to use blue lights and sirens.
Right.
And if they don't meet that criteria, then it's a non-issue.
It'd be up to Dean when they put it back on anyhow, okay?
I'd like to make a comment too, and I know you guys have talked about the training, and to me that's the critical key. So I assume the blue lights and siren gives them ability to go through a stop sign or go through a red light or get to an emergency, and the safety of people is in pursuit. If that happens, I mean, I could run for constable and win. I've got no experience. It would scare me to be in that position where I think I'd have the authority to do that. Now, I know we're talking about getting them in training. I just want to make sure that we feel like that's adequate, because I feel like if we approve this and allow it, which I'm not opposed to, I just want to make sure that they have the proper training to go through stoplights and red lights.
Well, and that's what we did here in item number 3. They have to provide proof of experience and learning. If they don't have that, they don't. A 40-hour constable course, we're not going to give someone blue lights and let them go do hot pursuit through the middle of Georgetown at rush hour.
But somebody in the Army for the last 4 years would have that training.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Any other questions for?
Just one question, if there's a violation, where does enforcement fall to on this? I mean,
Revocation of blue light.
but we tell him we can't use it, but he still does. That's,
Yeah, the fiscal court would have no power to do anything else.
but he would
Yeah, there-
violate
there-
state law in that case.
Yeah.
So,
Any other questions? My question is, are you ready to vote on it today, or you want
I'd let Glenn look at it.
Yeah.
Clay said he thought Glenn ought to look at it, so then with that, we'll vote on it at Thursday.
Judge, do we need to put in for item number 8, do we need to put in what we think the years is, or are we going?
Oh, that's a good question. Bill, y'all, or Rick, y'all think about that DUI?
what's the penalty personally now for as far as revocation of
Right
license?
now, today it's 5 years. They're in the process of enacting legislation currently expected to pass, it'll go back 10 years.
That it stays on your record, or,
Mhm.
okay. How long does your license get revoked when you
Oh,
get
how
a
long
DUI?
is it
Yeah, how long
revoked?
is it revoked for
It
personally?
depends on the first offense, it's 30 days.
Second offense, it's a year.
6 months.
What about a
Up to year.
CDL?
Same.
Same with the CDL? Okay. And I mean, of course, if they got a DUI, they're not gonna be able to keep their insurance coverage anyway. I mean, I'd almost be willing to say if you get a DUI, that your privileges are revoked until the end of your
Term.
political term.
If we set it at 5 years, that
Yeah.
accomplishes it.
I would think 5 years would be appropriate, really.
Yeah, I would, well, David, the only problem with that is they got their
If they get it,
license revoked to the
yeah,
last
December
month,
the-
they'd
yeah.
be eligible.
Yeah.
But is 5 years
Sounds reasonable to me.
reasonable?
Yeah.
Okay, put that in there for Glenn Clay.
If they went, Bill, if they went to a school, law enforcement school, and for 40 hours, and it, let's say the classes did not include pursuit procedures or whatever, is there a way that we can ensure that that be part of their training? One component of the training would have to be,
The Kentucky Constables Association has a defensive driving block that is 4 hours. That is nowhere near the requirements needed to be a sheriff's deputy or a policeman or a sworn LEO, law enforcement.
at least they're exposed to the,
Yeah,
to that, right?
It's basic exposure, but it's all classroom, no practical.
Okay.
Tony, did you have anything for the good of the order?
What if they have a second or a third DUI? Can you put a longer time on that?
If they-
And what if there were to be a felony conviction? Clay, would that be something where they would have to surrender their authority as constable if that were to happen?
You just can't drive.
Or
Well, not by the fiscal court. The only thing fiscal court can do is, by this, is take the privilege of blue light.
would statute though?
Yes.
Take their authority as a constable being a convicted felon?
Yes.
Okay.
And normally that would be done by the Commonwealth.
But would,
Go ahead.
would it, statute would take their authority if they're convicted of a felony?
Could, yes.
Okay. Well,
You
you
got
you said
sheriffs doing-
could, but does,
What?
I know, we've got elected sheriffs and judges and everything else that's been, that sit in jail and stay as elected officials
Yep.
in jail.
So, yeah, that doesn't mean it'll happen, no.
Okay.
It's not automatic.
Right,
No.
okay, okay.
Any other questions or comments? Anybody that's in law enforcement or?
Judge, my experience is the governor's got to remove the constable. The court can't remove it. It's the governor's office. Is that not right, Clay? That's how some of them stay in jail, being convicted. If the governor's office doesn't get involved, they can serve out their term in jail.
You know, I'm not certain about that.
Basically, what happens is if a guy gets a DUI, he just loses the ability to use blue lights. That's all we can take away from him. But he also loses his driver's license. Okay, and if he gets a second, third DUI, if he gets a felony DUI, it's loss of license. It just means he can still be a constable. He just can't drive.
Right.
So at that point, it goes beyond fiscal court, and I think the state has to act on something like that.
But Clay, isn't it correct also in saying that, like, say the sheriff or myself, the only person who can take me out of the office is the governor's office, unless you vote me out.
That's
If
true.
I get convicted of a felony tomorrow, I can stay in jail until my term either expires or the governor removes me. That's what I've.
That may be right.
That's what I've always been told.
Yeah.
And you can even file for
I
the
have never had
election.
opportunity to cross that bridge. No, I don't know.
Around the state, I've heard of that happening.
Yeah.
The only way,
You're-
is the governor's office normally doesn't like getting involved in local politics.
So we want to take
They
number,
don't sit in jail.
we want to take number 8 and make that 5 years.
Is that? Okay.
Is that kind of consensus what I hear from everybody?
Any other questions or comments? Okay, we'll be ready to vote on. Last week at the workshop, we also talked about putting the net up for safety reasons. Kenna called Stacy, they've got a second bid. We had a bid for 11,000. If that is.
It's more.
It's more?
Than 11, yeah.
So, does the court want to approve putting up the net for, at the park? I need a question.
I've kind of missed the boat on this one because I was snowed in.
What happened, Bill? Where the
I-
girls' softball field is right next to the bypass there. And the balls fly out, and the girls, the ladies, you know, they go chasing them. There's two dangers. One of them getting hit, the other is the softballs hitting a passing vehicle.
But don't we have the same thing on every golf course that runs next to Highway 460 and everything else in town? Or
Yeah, that's their liability.
do we own the girls' softball field, or is that
Yeah,
Parks and
we
Rec?
own it. The county owns
It's
it.
county park, okay.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah, that's the purpose, is just safety, and it's also for liability too.
I was thinking if it was Parks and Rec, it would be there.
They manage this bill, but they don't own it.
Okay.
We own the park. Is there a motion to move forward with that, or
So moved.
is there a second? Rick, any further questions?
Yeah, I had a question. In the workshop, David had described this pulley system where they could lower it.
That's the higher bid. It's
Okay.
like 15,000.
So this would be a permanent net that would,
Well, they're gonna look at being able to take it down, maybe take a lift out and hook it with carabiner clips and being able to take it down after the season.
Just
Because
about
they do that on the batting cages, the nets on the batting
Oh,
cages,
okay.
they take those down at the end of the season. So they're looking at doing the same kind of setup. But they can't do the flag poles because that's the one that was over 15,000.
it's just my general concern was that with the Marshall Field net, that there's continuous maintenance with that. I was trying not to put us in a position where we have to incur ongoing costs on an annual basis.
For a few $1,000s more, I'd rather have it so that we're not tearing it up 5-6 times a year. We can raise it, lower it when we're needed.
Is there a guarantee on the durability of or longevity of the net fabric and stuff, or?
That I don't know. I would say not, because, I mean, if you.
David
I
has been
wouldn't
more
think so.
involved in it than I have, because
I
he's got people in it.
I wouldn't think so. But I agree with you. I mean, you know, but
The
pleasure of the court.
people that are out there, I didn't go out and say, here's what you need and here's what you don't need. I'm not even as familiar with it as you are, Chad, but this is what they asked for, and this is what we got to bid on. Now, if you want to go back and do more specs on it, we'll have to delay it and go back and, you know, somebody gonna have to draw up the specs besides me. This is what the softball people do. So,
Well, one of the things I see that if you took it down to try to protect it when the season's over, on any given spring, lake, winter day, kids and parents are gonna show up there and the same thing's gonna happen.
Yeah.
If the net's gone, we're back to the same, they're still gonna chase the balls, they're still gonna foul them off, and so, I mean, it kinda speaks to, do we wanna spend a little more money and get this raising and lowering to try not to have a maintenance issue going forward? Probably ought to look into that.
Yeah, the pulley system is not to take the net down completely. It's just to lower it down, so when you have an icing situation or anything, that it's compact, and so that was the other option that they had priced out.
Or we can move the bypass.
Well, we could just make it total bike lanes and not allow cars.
Exactly.
I don't want to get hit on my bike. Still looking there.
what's your pleasure?
I think, I think that maybe we ought to do a little bit more investigation on it, just to see whether the one that we can take down automatically
Is
be
that
the
the
better
court's
deal.
pleasure?
And then like to see if if there's a warranty on or if there's a difference in the fabric of the net, because I think that would make a difference too.
How quickly would this go up? I mean, how?
Well, that's
we're-
what they're, I
we're-
think
we're-
that's what they're looking at, because you're looking at 2 or 3 home games a week for JV varsity, another home doubleheader on every Friday night for freshmen.
And we're right at the time this is all gonna start.
Yeah,
big
and then,
time.
and not to mention practice time, so it is being used 4 or 5 hours a night every
Being
day-
used
every
right
day.
now.
Yeah,
Right now.
every day.
I just,
So, I guess what we could do as a court is say this other bid with the one that you could, that's got the pulley, is say that it doesn't exceed that. Vote to not exceed $15,000, and.
Was that the total of 15,000?
It was 15 and some change. You know what, hold on, I take that back, because it was just sent to me early this morning, and I just got it, so,
you know, David, just to, when we have to, the Parks Department would have to get T.S. Eliot, which has got these large lifts, and they have to come out there, and they can only get on the fields when it's firm, it's not wet and muddy.
it's not on the
and-
field. It's
okay.
not on the field. It would be on the grass walkway is where you would.
Yeah,
have
I'm
to
talking
access
about the
it.
experience with Marshall Field.
Yeah.
And it just becomes an annual problem every year, and I, you know, Jerry Rimley would know best, but, you know, in terms of $5,000 to $6,000 every year that you're paying to fix the net because of wind, I just don't want us to put back in
The,
that.
the total bid is $15,540 for the one that's set up with flagpoles and the pulley system and all that. It's $15,540.
What's your pleasure?
Well, I know from talking to some of the Parks and Rec staff that during the summer, they're busy. All of them are busy. So I think that if we can cut down on man hours and maintenance, and by having the automatic one, not having to take it up and down, I think that'd be a
Well,
benefit.
What David has said, we have the person that bid just for the stationary one. We can go back and get
Don't
a
ask them
quote.
if they- yeah.
And if it doesn't exceed the 15.5, then if it does, then we'll go with it. Is that satisfactory? Because if we don't go on and do something,
Yeah.
then we'll be next year before,
Sounds
or at
good
least
to me.
this, you know,
I think we'll skin this cat right now.
skin
Do
it.
it right the first time.
All right, somebody make a motion, and I'll carry it
I'll
out.
put a motion in a second.
To
So
do what?
we have to withdraw the motion in the second.
I withdraw my motion or amend it.
Just
I'll amend
add
it.
to it, don't amend it, you know, we just make it the motion, yeah.
Make it the retractable system that we're talking about for 15,
Not to
540.
exceed.
Not to exceed.
Okay, is that satisfactory with everybody? And motion and second? Is that, okay, all in favor? Okay, it is approved unanimously. We need, or I need to appoint an interlocal committee. We haven't had any meetings, haven't had any discussions, contrary to what some people have thought with the mayor. But we need to have some interlocal meetings. And we're going to do that pretty soon. And David served on before, and David, can you continue to serve?
Yes, sir.
And we've been meeting at 4:00. And Chad, since you've been on the Parks Board, I don't know if you would be willing to serve or not.
Can I check with my wife first?
No. I could appoint somebody else. It's up, if you don't want to.
That's fine.
Okay. Now, the reason I say David, it's certainly been, we've been fighting these battles back and forth for long enough, and with Chad, now I need a volunteer for the third position.
I'll do it.
Okay, Alvin, anybody else? No, okay. But they've got 3 and we've got 3, and of course, the mayor and the judge are on that committee. Okay, we haven't got a meeting set up or anything at this point in time, so that's where we'll go. Those are all the items that I have on the agenda. Now, we're going to have a budget workshop after this meeting, so that'll be discussed at length. David, you had something additional?
Got 3 additional things that came up. We just got back from the manufacturer, from the ambulance manufacturer 2 days ago. The truck should be done around the first part of May. One of the things that we talked with their engineering staff about was the electrical system, because this is a completely different truck that we're buying than the ones that we have now. And I'd like to request travel for Chris from the county garage and my fleet guy to go back over when they have the electrical system being put in the ambulance, for them to look at the wiring, the harnesses, how it all is put together, if we do have some troubleshooting issues that we could keep from sending that back. And then the last trip will be a final inspection trip in April, first part of May. That'll be paid for by the salesperson from AV, but we will need to travel back to North Carolina for those 2 additional trips.
Let's approve them both at the same time.
Motion approved.
Okay, Rick. All in favor?
The next thing, we got a piece of good news last Friday, and I'll hand this out real quick. And I'll explain this.
Don't be nervous. Everything's gonna be all right.
We applied through Toyota for a grant, and actually submitted it the first part of the year. We were awarded $15,000. What this device will do, the first page describes the device. It's a CPR machine that was developed a couple years ago. The second page shows an actual application in the field. And then the third page shows all the components to this device. It's carried in a backpack type style apparatus. It is placed on the patient during cardiac arrest, and it compresses at a rate recommended by the American Heart. The
How
purchase,
many of these would that grant?
it'll buy one.
Buy one.
Yes.
Okay.
And that will buy the equipment, the battery, a carrying case, and a service agreement for $15,000. So that's all included in that price. We will carry this on our supervisor's response car. And I ask that we give recognition to Toyota on our vehicle that they donated that device.
Okay. Any questions, comments? That's good. Appreciate it, David. They'll put some kind of a little decal or something on the.
I've got their
vehicle.
logo, and we'll just make we've kind of got a name for our program. And part of the grant I wrote in there that we do respond to their facilities and take care of their employees. So that was part of why we requested this. So it'd be a good thing for the county. It's proven to be successful. Lexington carries them on all their units. So we just want to move into the standards that American Heart recognizes for care.
Very good, David. Thank you.
And then the last thing is Mr. Goebel requested that we transfer a spare cot that we have. It's a non-power cot. He needs another one for the office, and we have one that's surplus that we can transfer to him. I'll just get Stacy the serial number. It's one that we're not using anymore.
Need a motion to do that. Rick, Chad, any questions? All in favor? Okay.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Judge, one of the, we went to the judges conference at the Marriott. One of the things that came up down there was a Mesonet weather station. I went to one of their seminars. Currently, Scott County doesn't have one of these. And in talking to some of the other magistrates and reading the information on it, the initial cost is $15,000. And this plugs us into the Western Kentucky University International National Weather Service. And the purpose of the thing is so they can forecast, but it also is a reporting device for weather in Scott County. It measures wind, snowfall, rain, wind direction, relative humidity, soil moisture. I think there's about 15 other readings it takes. I'd like to put this on the agenda for one of our next meetings to
Okay.
discuss this
Yeah, I went to that conference too.
and see if this is going to be something that's going to be value added for Scott County.
Okay, yeah, I think it's very complicated as you listen to it.
Yeah.
And
We don't have to do anything. We just
no, I know it. I think a lot of things had to do with the type of terrain and how high it was and would it be effective in Scott County. But yeah, we can put it on the agenda. I don't know if anybody qualified here to explain it. We may have to have the guy come in to explain it.
And I don't mind contacting him to get him to come up
Yeah,
here.
and, what? Jack is,
I can be right half the time like the weatherman.
the weatherman was right this last time.
The Mesonet system is a great system. We do a lot of that on our own tower, a lot of those measurements and recordings we do ourselves. The soil, and any readings with the ground, we don't do. We don't have that capability. We looked into this a while back, and we were looking at using the acreage behind fire station as a possible place. But the problem is, like the judge said, is the terrain. Out of all that property, there wasn't one area that was suitable to them. And it, unless you put it like right in the middle of that land, which you have to be, you have to look at your future plans for that property. But it has to be so far away from buildings, so far away from trees, level. There's a lot of criteria that goes into that. So we have looked at it and love to have it, but finding the property to put it on has been the challenge, and it has to be a certain location based on the ones in the other counties. We can't put one on the county line when you've got one from Woodford County or whatever close by. So there's a lot of things that have to go into play with that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Jack, did they look at the Great Crossings property at that time? Because we've got
No.
over 100 acres there. I would
No, not
think
at
they
that
would-
time.
Yeah, they wanted it to be like 1,000 feet away from trees and things like that. I can think of 2 or 3 places where we could meet that criteria fairly quickly.
Okay.
But again, I think one of the things we need to do is discuss it's gonna be a benefit to us.
Mhm.
And if we do decide to do it, then we need to get these folks up here and let them pick a site. If we have a site, fine. If we don't have a site, then let's see what we can come up with. And if we
Right.
can't come up with
Yeah.
anything, then
We do have the capability of doing quite a bit from our office. We have a lot of National Weather Service instrumentation on our tower.
Well, I was thinking more in lines of, yeah, I know the stuff that you do, but this plugs us into the National Weather Service as well. And it also measures soil moisture content, which I think
Right.
would be valued to all the farming community we
Sure.
have here in Scott County.
Agreed.
Did you say you could get the guy to come down, Bill? I think it's,
I didn't say I could, but I.
well,
I'll sure
even
give-
if it's
I'll
not
sure
at the
give him a
next
call.
meeting, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, it's a pretty long presentation, so,
Yeah.
but I don't, how many of you went to that? I went to it.
I didn't go to that
Most,
one.
you didn't go to that one. I think there's some additional cost after it's put up too.
I'll find out what those
Yeah.
are. I'll give him
It's a long presentation, but just give him a time frame. Tell him how long he has.
Yeah, yeah, it was a 45-minute presentation.
Yeah, tell him he's got 15.
Yeah.
I'm sure it can condense it.
Anyone else have anything?
Judge and all magistrates, the International Association of Arson Investigators is holding their annual conference for the Kentucky chapter at the Wilmington Conference Center this Thursday and Friday. So you all want to come out Thursday morning for breakfast, for open ceremony, which are all more than glad.
What time?
It'd be about 8:30, 8:30. Big breakfast before you get about 8 you can eat, and if you want to mingle with people, there's people from all over the state there, from my state.
Do you know what the cost is?
It's free.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's in the Kentucky chapter, which I'm president of, and our fire department's been sponsoring for the last 7 years.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. David, you have anything?
No, sir.
Bill?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Was we gonna open the bids on the?
Oh, the hay bids, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, how'd I miss it?
On the agenda.
Oh, not on there.
I didn't know we were gonna open on.
Yeah.
In your office.
Yeah, we took the bids on the hay, and there's bids on 2 different properties. One is the Great Crossing property, and the other is the reservoir property. Thanks, Jeff. What? All 3 of these on the reservoir?
Great Crossings. 35 acres of grain, 85 acres of hay. Bid amount $5,600. George Ammerman. This one's likewise for Great Crossings. Reed Hall, $6,900. As insurance, it says. So Reed Hall is $6,900.
This one time we take high bid instead of low bid.
Did, I didn't see, it.
Just
Is
the only bid.
is it
Wait.
specified how many
Wait a
acres
minute.
can be
That's
cropped?
different.
In Georgia spelled out there's, I think, 35 grain, and there's a big difference between,
87 acres of hay and 33 acres of
yeah, that was.
crop ground.
But the other guy just had a number bid, he didn't have,
86, yeah. It's the same,
oh,
120
okay,
acres.
it's the same, okay, that's, he didn't either. As long as it's the
Yeah.
same, I just want to make sure.
120 acres.
If it meets the specs.
Yeah, if it needs,
Yeah.
I wasn't sure that was,
Yeah.
the separation of acres was
Yeah.
spelled out.
Okay. And we need a motion to approve the high bid, which is
Reed Hall.
Reed Hall, yeah. Do I have a motion to that second? Alvin, is there a second?
That was Kelly.
Kelly? Any questions? All in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. And then the reservoir property, we just got one bid on that.
One bid, this says bid on hay, $200 reservoir property.
James Cook.
James Cook.
That's not located very good for people to go get their hay. So, need a motion to approve that?
Motion to approve.
Second. Who seconded? Charlie. All in favor? One of the things too, these people doing that saves us from doing it too. So, that, we get two good things out of it. And, where was it? Charlie?
Here, yeah, another thing.
Rick? Alvin?
No.
No, sir.
Stacy? Being no further business, this meeting stands adjourned. We have a budget workshop, can't start till 2 o'clock. And
What?
You mean 10 o'clock?
10 o'clock, 2 o'clock.